everyone, and welcome to Many Thoughts with Dr. T. I am so excited to finally kick off this podcast. I just have so many random thoughts and knowledge and facts. And so I decided just to start a podcast to get some of these things out that are always swirling around in my head. So I'm excited to do that. And with that said, the podcast is not going to be about any one particular thing or topic. We could be talking about weight loss one day and how to get back in school the next and church the next, right? So all type of stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun stories to tell and share. And hopefully I'll be able to challenge you guys to think about your own personal stories as well. So with that, we'll get into episode 1, which is how did we get here? So the mini thought behind this is, are our lives predetermined, or can we write our own scripts? And you hear this a lot, right? And I go back and forth on this. You hear things like your steps are ordered, right? And so it's like, are we just following the script? Has God already given us, does he already know what our lives are going to hold and everything we're going to do from every second? We're just kind of walking it out. Or do we have free will, and do we have the ability to make decisions for ourselves, right? So that's the thought, the mini thought behind this episode. And what I want to do is I want to tell you my story, okay? And I want to tell you my story, and then at the end, I'm going to ask again and see if that may have changed your mind, okay? So I'm torn. I'm like right dead in the middle. So I wanted to tell you the story about how me and my husband met, okay? So I'm from North Carolina. Somehow, I ended up in Bentonville, Arkansas, okay? Working at Walmart's corporate office as a logistics project manager. So how in the world did that happen? Did I choose these things for myself, or was the path chosen for me? Okay. So we got to go all the way back in the time to figure out my career path and how I ended up as a logistics projects manager. How did that happen? Did I intend to do that? So let's go all the way back in the time. The very first thought I have of when I think about what I wanted to be was a WNBA player. Okay. So let me tell you how this happened. I'm the only child. And I always joke that I'm my dad's son, right? So, back in the day, you had one TV. If you were lucky, you had two. But we had one TV that I can remember. Of course, I was really young. And it was in the living room. And if you had a TV that sat on the floor, you were really doing it. So I remember when we got our TV, our floor TV that looked just like this, delivered from like Radio Shack or something. I don't know where it's from. But I was so excited, and the man controlled the TV. So my dad was either watching football, basketball, or like NASCAR or something. That's pretty much what we watched. So by osmosis, I guess, since that was always on, I just really learned to love sports. So much so I really decided, I think I want to play basketball. And so I remember I had a little Fisher Price slide like this, and I was standing at the bottom, and I would pretend like it was a basketball goal and like shoot over the top or whatever. So I did that so much that they finally got me my own little basketball goal, and that's all I did was hoop, y'all. That's all I did. When I get home from school, I just be in my room shooting. And so I really felt like I'm gonna be a basketball player. However, after the 5th grade, I never grew again. I'm vertically challenged, and I never grew past 5 feet, unfortunately. And so, WNBA player was out, okay? But no need to worry, because I like babies, and I said, you know what? I can be a baby doctor. And when I thought about being a baby doctor, this picture I have right here is exactly what I envisioned, right? I'll be in there, I pick up the babies, I give them some milk, I soothe them, brush their hair, and I make a cool 6 figures doing it, right? Who wouldn't want to do that? All right. So let me tell you what happened with this. So I grew up in the church, so I was in church. And our church has seating, and then there's a a curtain, and then there's like what we call the overflow. So if there's ever like a lot of members, they can open the curtain. So I remember I had to go to the bathroom, and to go to the bathroom, you have to go behind the curtain. So I get up, I go behind the curtain, and I notice people are kind of in a little frenzy. And then I turn and I look, and there is a mother, and she has a baby. He's about 2 months old, maybe 2 or 3 months old. And his eyes were like bulging out of his skull, and he was kind of shaking. And come to find out, the baby was having a seizure. And so they had to call the ambulance and the whole nine. And, thankfully the baby is fine. He survived. He's a grown man now. But that traumatized me. And I said, oh no, can't do babies. Babies are out. Babies are out. Okay. So no, can't hoop, no baby doctor. I said, you know what? I like computers. And this makes me sound so old when I say this, but this is around the time when, personal computers, people were just getting computers to have at their homes, right? And they were the big old computers, the bigger the better. And so I said, you know what? Why don't I be a computer scientist? Yeah, I'm going to be a computer scientist. And so in my high school at the time, you could take different electives. And one of the electives that we had was a course called C++. And back then, C++ was one of the preeminent coding languages. I don't know if it still is, but back then it was, right? And so I was excited. I said, I'm going to take the C++ class so I can get a head start. I can learn about coding. And then when I go to college, I'll have a leg up. And so I enrolled in this class thinking it was going to be fun. And this is what I seen. I said, yeah, no. So computer scientist was out as well. So now I am a junior in high school. I've always been a really high achieving and a go-getter, all of that. And now I'm a junior in high school, and I don't even know what I want to do with the rest of my life. I don't know what I'm going to major in college. So I was kind of freaking out a little bit. And so, quick tangent, North Carolina A&T, right? So I live very close to North Carolina A&T, which is the #1 HBCU in the nation, but that's neither here nor there. And so they had a major at North Carolina A&T called supply chain management. Okay. But back then, supply chain, it wasn't as big of a buzz around that as it is now. Okay. So because of that, the school kind of struggled to get people to get students to major in that. So, I mean, it probably was no more than 30 students. I'm talking about freshmen all the way up to seniors in that department. And so what the school decided to do is to create this thing called the Summer High School Transportation Institute. So the school says, you know what we can do? We need to recruit high school students somehow because nobody really knew what supply chain was. And so they decided to recruit local area sophomores and junior high school students. You would come for the summer. I think it was maybe a 6 to 8 week program. They give you $50 a week, which was a lot of money. And in hopes that and they would teach you all about transportation. In hopes that the students would graduate from high school, enroll in North Carolina A&T, and then major in supply chain. So it was like a feeder program, if you will. And so I think I found out about this from one of my peers at high school. I think she had been in the summer program the year before when she was a sophomore. So we were juniors now. And so I think I told my mom about it, like, hey, there's this high school program. So I was trying to figure out, is this something I could do over the summer? But I was like, transportation, that doesn't sound fun. I don't know if I want to do that. And then my mom was like, I mean, what else do you have to do this summer? And I was like, you know what, you're right. And so I decided to sign up for this program. But the problem was, I think the due date for the program was like 2 days out. So I had to scramble to get my resume, get my transcript. I had to get like 2 letters of recommendation. You had to write a letter, and it had to be turned in like Friday at 5 or something. So I remember I managed somehow to get all this stuff together, get it to my mom. We don't know, campuses are big, and it had to be in room 408B on the second floor, And so we scrambled, and we barely got that thing in there. I mean, it probably was like 3:30 on Friday. So anyway, I got accepted, and I really enjoyed the program. I initially just did it to have something to do and to get the $50 a week. to be truthful. But it was really a lot of fun. They taught us about the transit system. They taught us about rail. They showed us about warehousing. They would bring in keynote speakers every week. We got to travel all type of field trips. I remember we even went on like a 3 or 4 night overnight stay to Baltimore, and they showed us all about the ports and everything. And so I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. And I said, you know what? I think they got me. I think I will major in supply chain and transportation. So that is how I got that major. All right. So now I feel a little bit better. I go back to school. It's my senior year in high school. And I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm like, all right, I got my major. I know what I want to do. So next thing I got to figure out is where I want to go to school. Okay. And so the way I thought, this is not right, but this is how I thought. Back then, I just thought it was lame to go to your local area college. You know what I mean? I always wanted to go out of state. You know what I'm saying? Get some experience, get out there, live a little bit. So for me, like I said, I wanted to major in supply chain, so they got me there, but I was not sold on going to North Carolina A&T to major in it because it was like 15 minutes from my doorstep. And I was never going to A&T ever. You know what I'm saying? So for me, my first choice was Penn State and North Carolina State, a close second. And North Carolina State is about an hour and a half away, so it would do, you know. But my dream was to go to Penn State. Got accepted and everything, and at NC State. But the problem was, again, supply chain at that time, that wasn't a major that a lot of schools had. The closest I could get to it was civil engineering. And, you know, so I was really torn, like, man, I don't know what I want to do. And I remember there was one more school on the East Coast that had supply chain, which was Virginia Tech. So I applied there. I did get accepted there. But, and I'm not saying the city I live in is like this big city or anything, but I can't really do like the small town feel. And no shade to anybody who lives in Blacksburg, Virginia, but I was like, because we went to go visit the campus, and I just was like, I don't know. And me and my mom, we love shopping. And so I remember we went to their mall, and they didn't have a food court. And we was like, oh, nah, it's not going to work. And so, I narrowed it down to these three. Again, North Carolina A&T had supply chain. The other two did not. And my mom was like, you know, civil engineering, that's not close to supply chain. Like, you're going to be an engineer. You're going to be taking all these high-level math courses and all this stuff. Like, is that what you want to do? And I said, you know what? You're right. So that's how I ended up going to North Carolina A&T, a school I said I would never go to. And I love A&T, don't get me wrong, but I just didn't want to stay in town. And so again, we're talking about, is this whole thing predetermined? So I ended up out of nowhere majoring in supply chain and going to North Carolina A&T. Okay. So that's a little bit about that story. All right. So you know how I got my major, right? Next thing we got to know is, how in the world did I get to Bentonville, Arkansas? Okay. So let me tell you. Again, and this is one of those things, y'all, I don't think it can be a coincidence. There's this man named Jeff Cease. He's the senior vice president of logistics at Sam's Club. So you can't get any higher than that unless you're the CEO, right? So he pretty much ran the logistics department at Sam's Club. And Sam's Club, Walmart, pretty much brothers and sisters, right? Essentially. And they're headquartered in Bentonville. And so at the time, so just a little bit about Bentonville. Bentonville is pretty much all Walmart, essentially. Walmart runs that town. You know, you're talking about 18,000, 20,000 employees, 19 buildings. It's almost like a college if you could think about it like that. So, for example, if I worked at Walmart and you worked at Walmart, that doesn't mean we would ever see each other. It's not like I'm on the second floor, you're on the fifth floor. You know what I mean? So it's a whole deal. And over the summer, they would bring in about 200 interns for the various different departments. And so Sam's Club, the logistics department, they wanted an intern. And at the time, you know, Walmart, Sam's Club, as most companies do, you know, they primarily go to, white colleges and universities. And they may recruit Black students from those white colleges. I don't know why, but Jeff that particular summer said, no, I want to go to a black school and recruit. Okay. He's in the logistics department. I want to go to a black school that has supply chain. There weren't any, but North Carolina A&T. So he literally Googled, I'm guessing, Black College University Supply Chain. Bing, North Carolina A&T pops up. I'm a junior at the time. And, I was in good with the administrative office and all that. And so they were like, Tanisha, we got an opportunity. Sam's Club Walmart wants to partner with us you can have a summer internship, in Arkansas this summer. And I'm like, Arkansas? I want to go to Arkansas? So I tell my parents, about the opportunity. And, I had prided myself to have an internship every summer. And I had this particular summer, I was kind of struggling with that. And so my mom was like, what other internships do you have lined up this summer? I said, you know what, you're right. So I'm going to go. So I went that summer, and it was a blast. I had so much fun at Sam's Club and Walmart. So this picture to the left, so this is Jeff Cease. He was the SVP. This is Bill Ball. He was the director at the time, so that's who I reported to. And I had so much fun, y'all. Like, I never really knew what corporate America was until I came to this particular internship. So it really opened my eyes and showed me like, oh, okay, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And so I got to ride on a private jet, a PJ for the first time. That was super dope. Literally we could be like, hey, we need to go handle some business at a warehouse, one of our warehouses in Georgia. We leave at 6 a.m., fly there, do whatever we had to do, have lunch, do a little bit more, get back on the plane, and I was in my apartment for dinner. Like, super cool. Love PJs. And I got to meet some really, really cool people, man. Other interns, because again, there's about 200 of us. And so I got to meet some other really cool people that I'm friends with to this day. So I had so much fun there. And I also got to meet the CEO, Lee Scott. He was the CEO at the time. So I had a lot of fun there. So that was the summer of my junior year. So now I'm back at A&T. It's my senior year. I'm about to graduate, and so I need a job. Okay. And so, so I need a job. And again, my resume was really good. I had internships every summer, great grades, scholarships, all the stuff. But I was kind of struggling to land a job for some reason. And so I finally applied with John Deere. And there's several phases of it. And I finally got to the final phase. And so they said, we're going to fly you in to have these last phase of interviews, right? So I was like, cool. And, once you get to the last phase, unless you completely bomb it, or there's some red flag, you pretty much will have a job. So I was so excited about that. I remember I was going to be making like $65,000, right out of school. So I was like, yes, cool. It was in Iowa. I didn't really want to live in Iowa, but I just did that internship in Arkansas. So I'm like, how bad can it be? I'm gonna give it a shot, right? And so, I'm headed to Iowa. But remember now, to meet my husband, I got to be in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I'm about to get on a plane and head to Iowa to nail this interview and nail this job, right? So what happened to divert me? Let me tell you. And this story is so unbelievable, y'all. And this is why I feel like this is a primary reason why I feel like the script is already written for us. Because like I said, I needed to be in Bentonville, but I'm about to kill this interview, right, in John Deere. My mom dropped me off at the airport to get on the plane. It's probably 2 or 3 hours to get to Iowa from where I'm at. I don't know what happened. When I got on that plane, it's almost as if a sickness descended upon me from the heavenlies. Like, it was insane. I'm telling you, I was fine. Like, I'm talking to you guys right now. I was fine. Nothing was wrong with me. When I got off that plane, I was so sick. Like, sick. Like, I don't think I've been that sick ever again in my life. Like, I was sick. It was crazy. I don't know what happened on that plane. And I remember this specifically because now, back then I wasn't as health conscious with my food as I am now. So my favorite meal to eat back then was a full rack of ribs, baked beans, some fries, seasoned fries if you got it, and a Coca-Cola. Right? You couldn't tell me nothing about that meal. Uh, but when you sick, it just doesn't taste the same. So in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna get on the plane. They give you a little cash per diem. So I said, okay, cool. I'm gonna take the money they give me. I'm gonna find some ribs when I got off this plane and chill in the hotel, kick it, watch some movies. I got off that plane. I was so sick. I still got the ribs and everything, but I remember like not even being able to finish it. And I remember getting a water, and I didn't drink water like that back then. That's how sick I was. I was like, I can't even do the Coca-Cola because my throat was kind of hurting. So I just remember being so sick. I threw up multiple times that night. I couldn't sleep. So it was time for the next day for the interviews, and they flew me in and maybe 5 other students, but I think they were interviewing for other positions or whatever, but they kind of brought us in together. And back then, I also would deal with sometimes like asthma, bronchitis, or whatever. And sure enough, that was acting up too. That got triggered. So it's like I couldn't really breathe. I was uncomfortable. I wasn't feeling well. So I'm in the interview, and I remember even in the interview just having to be like, can I have a second? And having to go take my inhaler. And I'm just like, I know I blew this. I know they're looking at me like, girl, what? And so I was kind of bummed out, about that. But nonetheless, finished the interviews. Then they took us all to this building, beautiful building. I don't think it was a museum, but it was like this huge building where they had all of their tractors that they had since, whenever they started selling tractors, all the way up. So it was really beautiful, big, beautiful windows, carpet, everything. And they were taking us on a tour. And this is probably still the most embarrassing moment in my life. I was like, that feeling, vomited all over these people's nice carpet. I'm talking about, it was like a out of body experience. Like I was in a movie, and I'm like, is this really happening right now? I threw up all on these people's carpet on a job interview, y'all. I couldn't finish the tour. I had to go to this medical room with a nurse to check me out and stuff. So embarrassing. I remember being so sick. Even when I got back on the plane, I couldn't walk to my gate. Like I had to get one of those carts. They had to drive me to my gate. Like that's how dog sick I was. I don't know what happened. Needless to say, they sent me an email so quick. By the time I got home, one of those, thank you for your time, but we're moving on to other candidates. So I was pretty bummed out about that because, like I said, I was struggling to try to land a job, and I felt like I had this in the bag, right? And just like that, it was gone. So anyway, so I go back to school, and Jeff from Sam's Club, they had started a partnership with North Carolina A&T, so they were ready to get their next intern for the next summer. And since they were going to be on the campus, they hit me up. I was like, Tanisha, let's chop it up. So I was like, cool. So they got a conference room, and they offered me a full-time position. They told me I did a really good job the previous summer, so they wanted to bring me on full-time as a logistics project manager. And they just needed to know my answer by like the end of the month or whatever. And so I talked to my parents about it. And I really enjoyed Sam's Club Walmart. I had a great time. But I was like, dang, do I want to live in Bentonville, Arkansas though? Do I want to live there permanently? I don't know about that. And then my mom was like, well, what other jobs do you have? I said, you know what, you're right. I'm going to go. And so that's how I ended up in Bentonville, Arkansas. Okay. And this is important because if I didn't have that internship, I don't think there's any way I would have took a job in Bentonville, Arkansas. But because I had been there that summer prior, I knew the city, knew everything, knew the people, met me some friends and all that. I felt more comfortable accepting. So that internship was very instrumental in that. All right, so now I'm in Bentonville, Arkansas. My husband is in Bentonville, Arkansas, okay? But that just because we're in the same place doesn't mean we were going to meet. So there had to be something to connect us, okay? So let me tell you what that was. My love of sports was the thing that connected us, okay? So I told you, growing up in the house, my dad, that's all we watched. And so I loved football. I loved basketball. Even still, sports is life in our house, right? It's so funny because I remember being in school. I probably was like 7 or 8, and we were playing Jeopardy. And I guess they had some cards they were reading from or whatever. And the topic was sports. And I remember them saying, like, who's the point guard for the Utah Jazz? I'm this little tiny 7-year-old girl. And I'm like, John Stockton. And everybody was like, what? How do you know that? So I'm really about this sports life for real. Like, I can talk any man under a table about NFL, NBA. That's all I do every day is listen to ESPN and sports talk radio. So, but anyway, the Steelers, that's my football team. And we had just won the Super Bowl that February. Okay. I graduated in May. Now it's August and NFL season is about to start back up. So, I'm back in town. A lot of my friends got hired as well. So I'm like, yeah, why don't we get up and watch the kickoff of the NFL season? So they're like, yeah, we'll have a party, chips and dip, pizza, and all that. Cool. And so, my friend Crystal, she also got hired full time. We were interns and she got hired. And she's like, well, I know this guy and he has a projector in his apartment. So that would be really cool. We could all go over there and watch. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. So we all got together. We all had lunch to kind of set up everything. And that was the first time I kind of like met him officially. Like we shook hands, like, oh, hey, so that was cool. But the problem was he forgot that he was supposed to go visit his father who lives in the islands. And so we all went to lunch playing this thing. We get back to our desk, wherever we're working. And he sends this mass email like, I'm so sorry, y'all. I got the dates mixed up. That weekend I'm actually going to be out of the country. So he was like, man. But then he sent me an email on the side. And this is my interpretation because it was text, but this is my interpretation of how he was saying it. He sent me an email and it was like, but you can come over anytime. And I was like, what? And so I hit up Crystal and I'm like, yo, what is up with your boy? And she's like, nah, he cool, super cool dude. I don't think it's like that. He probably just want to get to know you better. So I'm like, okay. So he was like, well, let me get your number. So, when I get back in town, we can link up. So I'm like, cool. So I sent him my number. And while he was, out of the country, we texted a little bit or whatever. And then we got back. He invited me over that next Sunday to watch the game. And I went over every Sunday. And the rest was history. So that is how we finally met. Okay. So let's take a step back. Let's recap of all the things that had to go perfect for us to meet, right? I had to find out about the Summer Transportation Institute because remember, I didn't know what I wanted to major in. All the things I wanted to major in had to go wrong, and I had to be so confused that I went to this Summer Transportation Institute and decided to major in supply chain. Out of all things in the world I could have majored in. I never was going to North Carolina A&T. Like I said, I thought that was super lame. I was not doing that. However, I had to have a major that was so obscure that only North Carolina A&T had so that I would go there. All right. Jeff, out of all the summers, all the years, this particular year, God placed it in his heart that, you know what? I want to go to a black college and get my intern from there. And so that's how he got me from North Carolina A&T. So I had to be at A&T because that was where he was going to go, right? I still don't know to this day. I never really asked him what made him do that. But thank God he did. So Jeff was a very pivotal piece in this. And then John Deere, I had to bomb the John Deere interview. I probably would have been in Iowa somewhere. So that was a very important piece as well. That mysterious sickness that came out of nowhere. Crazy. So I didn't get that job and I ended up in Arkansas. And then, I had to have this love for football and the Steelers, which is the final connection for us to actually meet. So I don't know, y'all. I feel like the path was written. But anyway, we met in 2009. We got engaged in 2012. And then we got married in 2013, that following year. And my girl Crystal, we had the love connection. She was one of my bridesmaids. Then in 2018, we had our first son, and we take pictures every Christmas. This is 2019. This is 2020, which was COVID, remember? And so, at that time, you didn't really want to be in buildings with the windows closed and all of that. So we decided to do the photo shoot at our house. So this is actually our house. This is a fake backdrop. You can tell because it's like wrinkled over here on the side. But yeah, so that was our COVID year. This was 2021. This is one of my personal favorites. And then this is Christmas 2022. We had our second son. We got married in 2013, so this is 2023. So this was our 10-year anniversary. So we did an anniversary photo shoot, which was super cool too. And then this is the Christmas of 2023. And then this is our most recent one, our Christmas of 2024, and we had our third son. So this is how we got here, okay? So again, just wanted to bring this back up again. Are our lives predetermined, or can we write our own scripts? So I told you a little bit about my story, and that's why I'm so torn, because the things that happen, it's like all of that can't be a big coincidence, right? But at the same time, it's like I did have free will. I mean, I could have not taken that internship, or said, nope, I'm not going to A&T. I'm still going to Penn State. I'm going to be a civil engineer, So I don't know. When I think about it, sometimes I feel like, and let's just use like Michael Jordan, for example, because everybody knows Michael Jordan. I feel like, God gave him the height. He gave him the gift and the talent and the ability. And I feel like you're kind of forced. The forces like put you on a path. And if you just follow it, you'll reach like that ultimate level of success. But, nobody's ever holding a gun to your head. You always do have free will, So I think it's kind of a mesh of both of them a little bit. And you can even think about your own life, like whatever it is you're doing right now, your career choice, how did you get there? Like, did you look up to somebody on TV or somebody in real life and say, that's what I want to do? Or did somebody tell you about it? Was it a connection, and just all the things that had to go perfect in your life or right in your life for you to end up where you are. So just something to think about, but that's all I have for our first episode. Just a little bit more about me. So I did major in logistics. I did go to work for Walmart, and this is a whole nother episode, but about 2 years in, I realized that's not what I wanted to do. And so I went back to school and I got my master's and my doctoral degree in adult education. And really my passion is training. I love to teach, thus the elaborate PowerPoint slide here. And that's what I'll incorporate in the rest of the episodes as well. But teaching is my heart. That's what I love to do. And I love to train. And so that's what I do full time. And then part time, I'm an adjunct professor. And so I teach organizational needs analysis, foundations of leadership, and research methods. So I love to teach any type of leadership, soft skills type of courses like that. So that's just a little bit about me. I wanted to have a fun way to tell you my story, to tell you about me without saying, my name is Dr.T and I've been married this many years. So I just wanted a fun way to tell you a little bit about me. So that's what I'll be doing with the rest of the episodes as well. We'll have a mini thought. I'll share a story and we'll just share that together. So if you are still on now, thank you for watching this far. I appreciate it. And I will see you guys on episode 2. See ya.